Immigrant Village, now in the English version. 15 minutes ago, we finished the Spanish version. We are now in the English version. Welcome to Dialogues of the Immigrant Village. I am your friend Obed Arango, and I am transmitting from the city of the brotherly love, Philadelphia, in the suburb of Norristown. And today we have one topic that we are revising, in which the central topic has to do with the police known as Immigration Customs Enforcement, which we know that this year has been very much a nightmare for our community, for our immigrant community. One of the things before we advance, one of the things I have to say is that since November last year, we have been advising about to protect ourselves as a community. We have been advising to be ready, to be prepared, to make plans as a families, which is the first point of defense, which is important. We don't want no one to have disgrace in their families. Someone of your family members will pick up or be deported. However, when that happens, it's important as a family to be ready, to have preparation, to understand the decisions that you have to take beforehand, to be active, not reactive. And that point is something that we are emphasizing. It's so important that as families be ready and take the decisions. We know that it's difficult to have this conversation as a community. We know that this is a sad and difficult conversation as families, that it's not easy to share this news with kids and with teenagers. However, and unfortunately, on these times is necessary and becomes important for the families to have these conversations, to create the necessary powers of attorney, to do the steps that are necessary to secure the well-being of your families. As I mentioned that in the Spanish version, in this English version I also mentioned it, then for our allies to understand where we are as a community, which is so important, is very important. Therefore, having said that, my first encouragement is to the families to collaborate, understanding that in your own security you need to be ready and to be prepared. There are definitely resources that can help you. Hopefully in the coming weeks we can provide more resources about it, but it's so important that you and your family have a plan. Make a plan and make the decisions ahead. Be active and not reactive. Now, having said that, so some of the measurements that we have mentioned is that information is very important. Information, especially in the post-truth era, where people live through social network and a lot of information that many times are fake, that are fake news, that are false news, or that are declarations and affirmations without sustainability, without proof. It can misguide, and misorient the communities. Activists and journalists, community activists and community journalists has triple responsibility in not giving false information. Therefore, from my side, you can expect that everything what I say, I have something that sustains what I say. And I have dig to understand the situation, and I have dig to find the original source or the clarifications that are needed. Having said that, a few weeks ago, it came to my attention the Jenkintown policy regarding ICE, the Jenkintown police policy regarding ICE and the relationship with ICE. And it was last week. It was last week in a publication by journalist Emily Neal, who I know in person, and she's an excellent colleague, very professional colleague, who does a very good and fair work and fair job as a journalist. always proving her sources and proving her information, she published in WHYY the following news. Jenkintown is revising its police policy on ICE enforcement following community pushback. And then she talks about the policy, that I will talk a little bit about that, and also she talks about what are the things and what is happening with this situation. But let's go first into the document. This document that represents the position of the Bureau of Jenkintown Police Department. The policy is very confusing, and I will say it's also wrong Britain. It has is confusing in what they establish. It's confusing in the declarations they do. It's confusing in what they stand. It's confusing in the paragraphs how are written. It requires many revisions. And I am really surprised that a document of this kind was approved without clarity in how this was approved. That the council members of Jenkintown, if they read this document, my question is how they approve this document. Does this really represent their position? I will read to you one of the in the section that is called Procedures Illegal Immigration, where it will be the inciso D, point 3, I will just read to you this paragraph, that in the same paragraph it says two things, and that is only a token. The Jenkintown Bureau Police Department has no authority to enforce federal immigration laws. That is a declaration. The Jenkintown Bureau Police Department has no authority to enforce federal immigration laws. Has no authority to enforce federal immigration laws. It has no authority. That's what it says. Period. It has no authority. I don't say it, they say it. However, as we say in Spanish, sin embargo, no? And with the however, we have to be ready, no? Brace ourselves, no? However, there are limited occasions. Doesn't say what are those occasions. There are limited occasions. What do you mean that? There are limited occasions when they might be requested by the United States Department of Homeland Security. Wait a minute. You just told me that you have no authority. You just told me that you have not authority in the same paragraph. And then, in the however, you are telling me that there are limited occasions. But you don't tell me what are those limited occasions. You don't specify what are those limited occasions. When there might be requests by the United States Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE, to assist in detaining a criminal offender who is also in violation of the federal immigration laws. It's not clear. It's not clear if you have authority or you don't have authority. What are the limited occasions? How do you define criminal offender? In the same policy, they do some definitions. In the definitions, they talk about legal immigrants, non-immigrant visa holders, illegal immigrants, absconders, deportation, documented immigrant, undocumented immigrant. So confusing. So confusing, even in the terms that they use. Illegal immigrant, undocumented immigrant. It's so confusing, even in the definitions that they do. This policy requires serious revisions. And require really that the community can see it. and only in one paragraph. It's so confusing. It say two different things in the same paragraph. And I can go on and on this document, in which it requires serious. Now, it is important to think, according to the article of Emily, that there was no given timeline for rewriting the policy. It will be important that the council members of Jenkintown can tell and can share the timeline in how this policy will be revised or rewrite. It is unclear whether the public will be able to review the revised language before a vote. In this case, as we see this policy, I think it will be very important that the civil society, that the population of Jenkintown will have the opportunity to review the revised language before the vote. It will be important also to be sure that the Jenkintown council members will read it. It doesn't seem that the first one was read. No explanation of who drafted the original policy or where it came from. There is no explanation who brought it, who proposed it, how was this approved. And there is no clarity on how a contradictory policy was introduced without review. Therefore, in this case, there was no also explanation of why advocates were told the policy say one thing when the written version say another. Therefore, I invite you to read this article of Emily Neal in WHYY, in which she makes a very good analysis, and she had the opportunity to talk to the chief of the police and to have this bigger conversation. And she noticed exactly the same elements that I have been mentioning. This is a good article by Emily that I invite you to read and to check. But then the bottom line is the revision of the policy, which is important, but also to have a clear timeline on when this will be revised. Therefore, it's important to mention this and to bring light to this. But here we have a proven fact. We have a document that we can analyze. That is a proven fact. It's not something that I'm inventing. It's there. It's public. You can find it. You can find the article. You can find it in the police department of Jenkintown. That is a proven source. All right? Activists and community journalists, we have big responsibility when we say things to say it with proven facts. We are responsible because we are guiding the community. And for us, the most important thing is the care of the community. Having said that, and continue on the same topic, this week a number of families came to me asking me my opinion on a publication, on a post that appeared on the social networks this week, where appears a picture in which the post implies an affirmation, a declaration, an affirmation, in which imply that and is accusing the police of Norristown to collaborate with ICE. I don't see clarity in the post. I don't see proof. I don't see elements to affirm. And I want to be clear about this. It's not me here trying to defend something. No. As we just told about Jenkintown Police, in which we are asking clear process. We are asking a clear timeline. We are questioning their actions and their contradictory declarations is because we have a proof. And then we have the whole right to ask. And then we have the whole right to question because we have a proof. In this post, I find a risky situation. We are in the time of the post-truth. We are in the time when many affirmations are done in social networks, through memes, through TikTok, through many things. And we take those affirmations as truth. Very few times we ask the source, or we ask how that was generated, or we ask how the things appear, or what is that. Every image needs a context. Every image needs a context. The responsibility of activists and community journalists, first thing before go in reaction, is to get close to the source, is to get close to the authority and to say, tell me about this, I have questions. I want to come here into a dialogue. We have this in our hands. I want to know, I want to listen, I want to understand. And then give the opportunity to listen the explanation or the understanding or the clarification. But most important, the official position, which is the most important thing. In the case of the Jenkintown police, we have that official position. It's there. There is a document. We can question it. We can question it. We can be in agreement or in disagreement with it. In my case, I am in disagreement, as I already explained. And I have presented a paragraph that is not only wrongly written, but is contradictory in the same paragraph. In this case, the most important thing is to get the information of the official position. Here in Diálogos de la Vía Inmigrante and in Organízate, Movilízate, we have been, since last November, talking directly with officers and representatives about their official positions. And, for example, when I talked to Congresswoman Madeline Dean back in August, and I asked her about the situation of ICE and how it's possible that the federal government approve a budget to ICE that is bigger than the military of Italy or the military of Israel, she agreed and she expressed her official position, and is here in the podcast. You can go, you can find the podcast and listen the interview. Her position was clear. Democracy is at risk because this is a militarized police. She agreed with the statement. She declared the risk situation of ICE and the way how they are acting. You can listen to the interview. When I talked to Mary Gay Scanlon, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon, back in June, you can listen also her position. Last week, 2 weeks ago, when I talked to Senator Amanda Capaletti, she denounced the actions of ICE. And she presented her legislation. And she's inviting for this Monday, 24 of November, in the Church of the Ascension from 5 to 6:30 p.m. into a workshop. No to the secret police. And she is submitting a legislation to unmask eyes. We had in this podcast Greg Scott last week, Representative Greg Scott, submitting and supporting a similar legislation in the House of Representatives of Harrisburg, of Pennsylvania. Therefore, that same element, to talk directly, to get official positions, is so important for us, community communicators, journalists, and activists and social leaders, before to make affirmations, because we can misguide the community. And what I am saying here, why this is important, our community has suffered a lot of violence and suffers constantly a lot of violence. We like it or not, it is very important to have a relationship and a clear communication with the police. It's very important. If somebody is assaulted, it's important to report the assault. If somebody suffers violence, it's very important to report the assault, the violence. If somebody is suffering family violence, it's very important to report that assault. Affirming publicly and telling the community to affirm something without further explanation, it put the community at risk. The community is the first thing that we need to take care, that we need to be careful. Affirmations without sustainability are risky. And it's not risky for the communicators or for the social leaders or for the activists. It's risky for the community. It's not about us. It's about the community. That is the responsibility. Now, let me tell you a little bit of the history of the police in Norristown. I have been here in this town many years already. Back in 2010, 2011, we know and I can affirm that there was collaboration of the police of Norristown with ICE. In those days, I was producing a program for Telemundo, and I was reporting. And I was covering also some national news and some international news. And in those days, I had the opportunity to talk directly with the chief of police of Norristown, that was Chief Bono. And even I encountered the representatives of ICE. I am talking about 15 years ago. And there was a clear participation of the police department with ICE in those years. I have proof for that. Otherwise, I would not be saying it. Now, passed the years. The year passed. The years advanced. Chief Bono left. And then it became Chief Talbot. And Chief Talbot had a completely different approach with the community. A totally different approach. One of the very first things that he did with us, it was to call the social leaders into meetings with him. We were in many meetings. And one of the first things that he affirmed to us was, we are a local community police. We are not a federal agency or a federal police. We are a community police. It's not our duty to be federal force. He was clear about the statement. And he started to do some actions that were very important to us. The first thing is that he put more people, Hispanic people, to speak Spanish in the police. The second thing, it was to bring a community liaison, which it became a bridge of communication Because many times there might not be the trust of the community to talk directly to the police, but it can be done through a community liaison. And I have to say it. It's very important to have a community liaison. It's very important because when there is building trust and you don't want to talk directly to the police, you can use the community liaison to express or to report or to say it. And it has been in the person of Ms. Rosie Calderon, who has been always serving. Every time when I have needed to reach out, to talk, to clarify, or to get help for the community, she has been there. An initiative of Chief Talbot to have a community liaison, which is very important, to have more people speaking Spanish inside. He made a change. And I am the first one recognizing it. In the years with Chief Bono, which I oppose, I remember when they were picking people in the McDonald's, when we were trying to change the place. I remember those days. And then later, with Chief Talbot, there was a completely different approach. Now, I'm not saying that the police is perfect. And I'm not here defending an institution. I am just saying the history and the changes that I have lived through. Now, we are in 2025. We are no longer in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2020. We are in 2025. And we have a very similar circumstances like 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And the declaration that I had directly, because as you may remember, I told you, we need to go back to the official positions. I can question Jenkintown because there is publicly their official position, and we can question it. Through this year, I have sustained dialogues with officers at different levels, getting their official positions. In conversations with the administration on Norristown, it has been the official position. No, we are not collaborating with ICE. We are not a federal agency. That's the official position. We have had it in community assemblies. Now, there is the image. What is our responsibility as communicators and as an activists or social leaders? Is to get close, searching for dialogue, to understand whether it's the picture or to understand whether it's the situation, and to get an explanation. That is what we have to do as a responsible communicators and as a responsible social leaders. I have not yet had the opportunity to do that, but I will do it. Because it was just recently, yesterday, that came to my attention and that many people were asking me. But in coming days, I will try to get that, again, official position and an explanation. But it's so important not to declare or affirm things, because again, it's not the communicator or the activist or the social leader who is at risk. It's the community, the one that is at risk. And we have to be responsible of what we are asking them to do. Social leaders, activists, communicators, we are in a position of privilege. We are in a position of privilege. It's not the situation of the whole community. Remember, in the center of us should be the care of the community. Now, I am not saying that we don't have it, and I am not questioning the intention. But we have to be responsible. We have to because I am sure that all of us will love the community. I am sure of that. But that doesn't excuse. It's so important to have clarity of thinking. Then we have clarity in action, in our actions. Thank you so much. Having said that, enjoy and have a happy Thanksgiving. Feliz Día del Pavo, as we say it in Spanish, the Día de Acción de Gracias. Enjoy with the family, despite the difficult news and difficult situations of this year. Try to have time to enjoy with your family. From the city of the brotherly love, desde la ciudad de la fraternidad, Philadelphia, in the town of Norristown, this is your friend Obed Arango. You were in Dialogues of the Immigrant Community, of the Immigrant Village. Thank you so much.